Hello everybody, Glass Half Dead here, and it's day 5 of the daily Warcry releases that we're getting, and also day 5 of me attempting my absolute best to not talk so that my voice gets better. And so in honor of that, I'm going to read out everything in this article, which is super long. So today is kind of a similar one to yesterday's in the sense that yesterday Warhammer Community released the Warcry website, where we managed to look at finally which units the core Age of Sigmar armies get, and I obviously was really excited about that, so I talked about that. But now they've done it as an actual article. Now, if you are familiar, I've already read this. If you are familiar with the Age of Sigmar armies and how they play already on the tabletop, basically they're just confirming that yeah, the units there are going to play the same in Warcry. But let's take a read, because truth be told, I am not that familiar. I believe I know a few things, but my knowledge isn't exactly tournament level. So let's start with the Stormcast Eternals, who, if we look up in the corner here somewhere, I may have decided to collect a small little Vanguard army warband for them. Anyway, I'll keep that rotating up there or spinning or just being still, whatever it's doing. I don't know. I haven't recorded it yet, so I don't know. Anyway, Stormcast Eternals, what they want. Despite the risks of a painful and quite possibly final death, the Stormcast Eternals of the Vanguard Auxiliary Chambers scour the 8 points for secrets long hidden by the God King. Guided by astral compasses, they fight in elite bands, hunting for artifacts and treasures reawakened by the Necroquake. So, a few things I do know. The Necroquake happened in the most recent release of Age of Sigmar, which was... There wasn't Soulstorm. It was like it just happened. I can't remember the name of it, but the Necroquake was a thing. Good stuff. God King, that's Sigmar. Sigmar himself. And they do allude to it here, which is that if they die in the Chaos Realms, they cannot be reforged. For those of you unaware, I'm sure if you're here you do know, but for those of you unaware, the Stormcast Eternals are called Stormcast Eternals because they get reforged. Probably shouldn't use that term, because when they die, they get brought back to life. There you go, and they call that reforging, the reforging process. However, if they die in the Chaos Lands, that does not happen, potentially. How they play. Stormcast Eternals warbands are well armoured and well rounded, preferring to keep enemies at arm's length, but more than capable of slicing them up in melee if needs be. Vanguard Raptors provide you with unparalleled range support, while Aetherwings and Gryph-hounds make for fast-moving frontline troops, great for having opponents that would otherwise threaten your shooting units. Meanwhile, Vanguard Hunters strike a balance between both capable of effectively engaging at any range. Cool. So it sounds like you could probably run a team of all your Vanguard Raptors with your long strike crossbows sitting at the back of the board, pew-pewing, while your Gryph-hounds run around, or you could probably even go just all Vanguard Hunters. Daughters of Cain, what they want. Ferocious and unquestioningly loyal to Morathi, the Daughters of Cain are well versed in the arts of infiltration and assassination. In the 8 points, they pursue distant foes of the High Oracle, every intrigue bringing their dark mistress closer to godhood. How they play. The Daughters of Cain are a classic glass hammer. Oh, that's me. Anyway, while they're fragile, they hit very, very hard. Warbands can lean on hordes of highly points-effective witch elves and sisters of slaughter, or use super elite specialized fighters to accomplish their goals. Few enemies can hope to defeat a blood sister in close combat, while the airborne Kinnerai Heartrenders combine blistering speed with excellent firepower. Now, I've got to be honest, I typically quite enjoy the glass cannon, glass hammer type playstyle. However, I'm kind of assuming that I'm going to get that already with the Corvus Cabal or the Snaky Boys, whatever they're called, Fighting the Fang, can't remember exactly. So it's actually going to be really interesting to see, like, stats-wise, how these different armies compare. I assume they're all going to be lightly armoured, and hit hard, but how they differ is going to be very interesting. And that's really going to be, for me, what dictates which of those three armies I end up playing long term. Daughters of Cain are not, they have lovely models, but I'm not instantly, they are definitely a wait and see for me because they're quite an expensive faction. Idoneth Deepkin. What they want, the 8 points, is rich with powerful souls. While some of the Isharan believe these spirits irreparably tainted by chaos, many believe that the risk is worth it, slipping into Archaon's domain through hidden portals on clandestine soul hunts. How they play. Idoneth Deepkin warbands are split between two broad kinds of fighter. Namati Reavers and Thralls cost a mere handful of points for solid stats, while Ishlane and Morsar Guard are super elite, super fast mounted options with incredible stats across the board. You could field a diverse raiding force of Namati or a hyper-focused lance of Kellyan cavalry consisting of only 3 to 4 models. Now that's cool, so that gives us a bit of an idea of how much the Kellyan cavalry costs. I don't know why they say 3 to 4 models. Surely it should be 3 or 4 models, but we can therefore assume that the Achillean cavalry will be minimum 250 points, which puts it above even the ogre that we've seen stats-wise. But of course, they'll also be mounted and probably have flying, so it kind of makes sense even just for that movement, I would assume. Although, just the way they describe them there, the Namati Thralls cost a mere handful of points for solid stats. I'm like, well, hold on now. Surely it should be one or the other, right? Because otherwise, you just run 15 Namati Thralls. Anyway, we shall see. I suspect they are going to be tough bastards to play against. Especially if we get into roster building as a sort of thing, you won't know what to take. Because presumably, 3 to 4 Achillean cavalry will be in every roster. So you'll just be like, well, what do I take? Now, some of you are going to point out that in the competitive play, it says that you take a warband, not a roster, so you don't get to swap things in and out. That could change, who knows? Because although you are allowed to take a maximum of 15 models on the field, I believe your roster can be 20. Don't quite know why. So maybe that's a thing. Haven't looked into it too much yet. Legions of Nagash. Now this is an army that I'm potentially interested in, but I really want to see the stats first because the models themselves don't interest me that much. What do they want? Nagash works tirelessly to further his aims in the mortal realms and beyond. Sometimes this involves smashing down enemy cities with vast armies of the undead, but the great necromancer can be subtle when he needs to be. Hold on now. They've given us an asterisk. Let's go read the asterisk. There's no asterisk. Did I go too far? Come on now. They gave us an asterisk, but they didn't give us the asterisk. Well, literally unplayable, G-dubs. Okay. In the 8 points, sorry, necromancers work to help keep an eye on Archaon, undermine his plans, and slay any who think that this dark kingdom gives them respite from the god of death's wrath. Now, for anybody unaware, Archaon is effectively a god, kind of chaos. Like he's not, but he kind of is. Whereas Nagash is a literal god of death. And so they are kind of power-wise, I believe Archaon, like in the fluff, I mean, is, I believe, kind of above him a smidge. But yeah, if Archaon wants to lay, at some point in the lore, when they went from Warhammer Old World to Age of Sigmar, I believe Nagash was being a bit uppity, and Archaon did just smack him in the face. And like Archaon can do that. He has the power. I don't know in the current timeline, fluff-wise, where they actually stand with each other there. I don't know if Nagash has gained power, if Archaon's lost it, or if they're still the same. That is not represented on the tabletop, by the way. But just so you know, they are competing gods, effectively. How they play, generally based around a necromancer, with a skeleton champion or seneschal for support, the legions of Nagash benefit from being able to field hordes of troops using abilities to deal most of their damage. Interesting. Where the legions of Nagash really shine is in their ability to resummon fallen fighters, making them incredible in protracted engagements. So that's interesting. So obviously that means there is the recursion mechanic with them, which is fun. I do enjoy that. However, the mention that they are going to be using abilities to deal the majority of their damage is very interesting, I think. And definitely something that I will look forward to ripping open that tiny booster pack and reading the abilities card. Um, I mean, obviously, I haven't played the game yet, but just thinking, you don't really get that many abilities, I feel, like one or two per turn. And then I assume it's only 4, 5 turns max. So you're not really. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, again, I'm just going by my initial impressions without having played the game. I know that abilities are being thrown out there as the way that warbands differentiate themselves from each other properly. But anyway, Nighthaunt, what they want. Not even the 8 points could escape the Necroquake. In the aftermath of this arcane cataclysm, vengeful geists are common around the Bloodwind's spoil. Their attacks initially seemed random, but now it appears that Nagash is directing his servants to perform some kind of grand scheme. How they play. The Nighthaunt are a relentless warband in Warcry, making up for average offensive characteristics through incredible durability. Indeed, Spirit Hosts, Grimghast Reapers, and Glaive Wraith Stalkers all boast an impressive toughness. Rather than dealing explosive damage, they instead excel at longer battles, winnowing the enemy away slowly before eventually overcoming them. So I would assume in that case they will have kind of a toughness 5 to represent the fact that they are ghosts. And so even though they aren't that tough physically, obviously they're kind of incorporeal. The one thing it doesn't mention here is that they're all flying. In Age of Sigmar, proper core Age of Sigmar, I believe all of these units are flyers, or so one person in my comments told me, and I have decided they are definitely telling the truth, and I haven't checked it myself. So, but no mention of that here. Very interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, over to the Flesh Eater cause. This is another faction I am considering. What they want. While the Flesh Eater courts tend to congregate in great numbers, some particularly eccentric mordants are compelled to undertake strange, deluded quests. Accompanied by others who share their madness, they believe themselves to be noble questing knights, travelling as far as the 8 points to satisfy their twisted honour. For those of you unaware, the Flesh Eater courts here, you see them, they are just ghouls. They're not skeletons, although there are some skeleton dragons, I think. But, ghouls, crypt horrors, disgusting, rotting flesh. The lore behind them is actually that they are effectively Bretonnians. And when Bretonnians got brought back in Age of Sigmar, they've all come back crazy and mad and kind of resurrected. And so they all believe themselves to be like dressed up nobles and honorable knights, but obviously they look insane. And they are literally insane. That's kind of the thing to them. So, Flesh Eater courts, warbands are almost the exact opposite of their skeletal kin. Boasting excellent movement on all their fighters, they combine the ability to field loads of crypt ghouls as a crawling, horrifying anvil with ferociously strong units like crypt horrors acting as a hammer. Our top tip, take at least one crypt infernal, capable of flight and boasting horrifyingly good characteristics, particularly movement. It's quite possibly the single strongest fighter in the game. Ooh, that's exciting. That is exciting. I suppose a quick note there. The Crypt Horror and the Crypt Flayer there are the same kit. So from the sounds of this, build one of those. They come in a kit of 3. So possibly, if you're looking to get a head start before you see the cards, build 1 Crypt Flayer and 2 Crypt Horrors. Although saying the single strongest fighter in the game is very interesting. What I'm going to do now, as a bit of a hobby off camera, is actually look at the stats of a Crypt Flayer in Age of Sigmar, see how it compares to other units that they're going to be showing, and see if it is in Age of Sigmar a better unit. Because maybe we can then start drawing some comparisons. But now we are over to Destruction, and the Iron Jaws up first. Nothing keeps an Orc from a good scrap. The Iron Jaws have attacked the 8 points in force many times. Now, small warbands of survivors dot the landscape, finding the constant warfare, bloodshed, and carnage rather agreeable, but without an Oxford comma, literally unplayable G-dubs. How they play. Iron Jaws are a simple to play and brutally effective warband in Warcry, boasting excellent toughness and solid attacks. While slower than some other warbands, they're easily able to weather heavy damage before crumping the enemy up close. Excellent strength means they're particularly good at battling other heavily armoured warbands too. I've got to be honest, I was excited for Iron Jaws because I think the models look awesome, and I've been looking for an excuse to build and paint them. I was going to do them a funky colour, it was going to be awesome. But when I read, where is it? Simple to play. I was like, shit. No. Don't get me wrong, simple to play can be good, but the way I read that is fun for like 2 games. And then it's like, oh, what's your tactic this time? Oh, well, I'm going to run the deployment groups and lists that I run every time. And, I'm going to charge towards you. Oh, did I roll the dice well? Okay, I won. Did I not roll them well? Okay, I lost. Yeah. Bone Splitters. What they want, driven by the mad ravings of Wurgog prophets, some bands of Bone Splitters roam as far as the 8 points, chasing particularly powerful monsters, or just the voices in their heads. Their motivations in this chaos-tainted realm are unclear. Their effectiveness on the battlefield is not. How they play. Bone Splitters are excellent generalists in Warcry, boasting a large roster of fighters to choose from, decent characteristics, low points cost, and a good mix of ranged and melee attacks. You'll have the most success with these guys by fielding a mix of models. An arrow boy or 2 for supporting fire, savage orcs with bone shields for defense. So, interesting one here, of course, is the fact that all of these guys can be bought with a single box of these guys. What are they called? Bone Splitters. Of the Bone Splitters, it's a single savage orcs box. It costs £30 and you get 20 of them. Yeah, I actually think, okay, just, like, hypothetically, I think this is the cheapest warband to buy. Like, 100% it is. It is the cheapest warband. As a single box for £30 is going to give you more than enough of every option, which we know to be the case, because even though we don't know points cost yet, this article says an arrow boy or 2 for supporting fire. We know that they can never have more than 15 models on the board, and their suggestion of only 1 or 2 arrow boys, just to me kind of implies kind of supporting fire. So that's not the majority of your list, but for example, with the Gobos, with the Gloomspite Gets, as we're about to see, they could have said, oh, well, you want to take 6 at least. And that would, again, give us an idea of, oh, well, okay, if we want 6 for supporting fire, that means the majority of the list is still going to be 8, 9, 10. So, yeah. What I'm saying there is cheapest warband by far, for £30 there, it will give you every single option you could need from the sounds of it. 100% out of the Age of Sigmar core factions that we're seeing here, but also, I would argue, out of the Warcry factions, because although we can assume their boxes to follow the Cypher Lord's price of £30, which is the same as the Bone Splitters box, so surely they're the same. However, we already know that potentially to get the most efficient, if you will, Warcry warbands, you're going to need to buy 2 because you're going to need duplicates. Ignoring eBay, if you only need one more guy, you'll probably hit up eBay for that, I'd assume. But otherwise, you have to double up and buy 2. But now onto Gloomspite Gits. What they want, spreading across the mortal realms like a fungal infestation, the Gloomspite Gits can be found everywhere, including the 8 points. Quite why any choose to live in the Bloodwind Spores is unknown, but not even the ever-present taint of chaos can dampen the enthusiasm these grots have for raiding and pillaging. How they play. Gloomspite Gits warbands will easily outnumber their foes in most games, and while one stabber might not accomplish much, 4 will make mincemeat of any enemy, or at the very least, their knees. Top lols. Boingrot Bounders and Squig Hoppers, meanwhile, are astoundingly mobile. Each has the fly room mark representing their bounciness and allowing them to ambush enemies behind cover with ease. How do we feel about that? Let's have a think. Yeah, okay, cool. I like it. It definitely makes sense that Gloomspite Gits are the most numerous because obviously they're tiny little guys. I don't really have much more to say about that. I assume that you'll be able to take, if you wish, a single squig herder as a leader, and then just a whole load of squigs if you want, or you can like mass horde 15 models on the board, shooters and stabbers. Don't know. There you go. Cool. Anyway, that's been this article. Has reading this article changed what you thought? Or has it just confirmed, oh yeah, I know that I still want to get Stormcast, or I know that I still want to get Idoneth Deepkin, whatever. As I said, for me, it's only changed that I no longer am going to make Iron Jaws. They were honestly the one I was leaning towards very heavily, literally just yesterday, or this morning. However, because of them being simple to play, I changed my mind. Look, I'm not expecting huge complex tactics from every single warband, but these Iron Jaws are clearly just, well, we have a big stick or we have a bigger stick. Which would you like to take? I feel that other factions seem to give a better variety. Obviously, this is coming from somebody that has not seen the rules and doesn't really know. Just my initial impressions. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Oh, also, another thing. This video. I didn't see them mention it, but this video is up. If you want to know how to paint the Untamed Beasts, there you go. I don't really know why I'm telling you this, I just am. Anyway, Glass Half Dead, hope you've had a great day. Hoping you're as psyched for Warcry as I am. Goodbye.